Edgar Allan Poe.
To what may I attribute the honor of your call?
The night before last, a young girl and her mother were found murdered. The daughter's body was lodged in a chimney.
It was kind of a lucky one for me because they came to me with a thing that I was going to say yes to right away. So I think it would have been one of those roles that anybody would have sort of fought for and sort of auditioned for and, you know, really went to bat for. And I was very fortunate that they came to me.
Poe's a genius. You know, that's why there's a movie about him. I think anyone would be and is attracted to genius. And, you know, talent's a great aphrodisiac. And I think it's just the same for Emily. I don't think she sees anything else.
You're referring to one of my stories, a work of fiction.
I'm afraid I'm not.
He was sort of a professional intellectual, and he was a bit of a rock star because his poem, The Raven, it became famous and was printed all over the world, but since there was no copyright, he didn't get any money for it, so he lived in a hovel. He was poor his entire life, but he was famous. And then, you know, got invited to the White House, but got drunk and caused a scene at the White House. I mean, he was just, you know, he was like a Baudelaire or something. He was one of these creatures who could be at the highest, loftiest poetic place, and then he could just be in the gutter with, you know, the street dregs and the slugs. And he was sort of would breeze in and out of both worlds. So he's like a fantastic character.
I love you, Edgar. Be careful. His famous poem, The Raven, is about his descent into madness, so that's paralleled in, you know, what happens to Poe's character. But I think there's a sort of plethora of short stories that the writers have taken elements from to create what happens in the film.
I actually think that I murdered these people.
What cannot be disputed is that your imagination is the inspiration of a horrendous crime.
What I tried to do was make it like a Poe story, you know, like I think the Poe stories have this great kind of macabre quality, you know, in the aesthetic, and you always felt like it was, you know, the Poe stories happened in this sort of netherworld, you know, like of his imagination.
I challenge the brilliant detective mind of Edgar Allan Poe, a game of wits. If I will kill again, and on that new corpse I will leave clues.
Studios do these things where they ask these branding questions. They say, they go to Orange County and, you know, 5 other cities, and they go, do you guys know about, you know, Alice Eve? And then, you know, 42% say yes, or John Cusack, and 61% say yes, or whatever it is. But Poe had 96% people knew about him. Young, old, every demographic. So he's definitely in the collective conscience of people.
The Pit and the Pendulum. Are there other stories in the collection? Specifically about murder?
John was great as Poe, really wonderful, and he brought a lot of lyricism to the language as well, which would have been typical, I think, of a poet, to have a melody to his language and a flair, and he brought that, and he really inhabited that kind of neurotic, alcoholic man, you know.
No matter how this ends, I will kill him.